Hey, dreamers, welcome back to your Dream Coach podcast. I'm Shayla Wey. I'm a small business coach, growth strategist, and believer that your dream life starts the moment you lead like you mean it. Well, this podcast is all about leadership, fulfillment, and growth, the three pillars that I found not only build better businesses, but better humans. And today I'm going to be talking about something I think every ambitious person needs to hear, especially the ones chasing big goals, building teams, or constantly looking for what's next. Because here's the truth I've learned, both in business and life, is fulfillment isn't a finish line. It's not something you arrive at when your business hits a certain revenue number, and it's not waiting at the end of your to-do list. And it's definitely not something someone else can hand you. Fulfillment is built in the process, in the way you lead and grow along in the journey. And I've seen it time and time again with my coaching clients. They're high achievers, visionaries, the kind of people who make things happen. But even when everything looks good on paper, they often say, why don't I feel more fulfilled? So in this episode, we're going to unpack that. We'll talk about what fulfillment really is, why it can't be tied to achievement, and how to create more joy, meaning, and satisfaction right where you are. We're also going to connect this to your role as a leader. Because the truth is, your team and your business mirror your energy. So when you lead from fulfillment instead of frustration, everything changes. And before we dive in, if you haven't already, come join us inside the LFG Business Academy on School. It's completely free and filled with resources to help you lead and grow without losing yourself along the way. You'll also get my mini leadership series, which helps you lead like a CEO with clarity, confidence, and calm. So you can find the link in the show notes. So let's get into it, because this episode might just change the way you define success. So here's what I found after coaching hundreds of leaders and entrepreneurs. So many people live in what I call the when I get there trap. That fulfillment trap, when I get there, really never works. And here's why. Is this sometimes comes up in things like, well, when I hit this income goal, then I'll feel peace. When I have more help, then I'll enjoy it. When I get that next client, that next hire, that next vacation, blah, blah, blah. It never ends. And it's what Arthur Brooks, the Harvard happiness researcher, calls the hedonic treadmill. You keep running toward the next thing, but the finish line keeps moving. And fulfillment doesn't live in the future. It builds through the presence. Okay, it is built through the presence. It doesn't live in the future. And when I've looked at the most fulfilled leaders I know, they all have one thing in common. They've learned how to enjoy the doing, not just the achieving. Because the truth is, if you don't learn to find the joy in the process, success will often always feel like pressure instead of purpose. And one of the biggest shifts that I've seen in myself and in my clients is realizing that fulfillment comes from alignment, not achievement. Because as I've shared in other episodes, achievement is external. And it can be, it's really about validation, numbers, comparison, where alignment really pivots that to be more internal. And that's where it's more about values, purpose, and integrity. So you can achieve incredible results and still feel empty if what you're doing doesn't really align with who you are. Simon Sinek talks about this beautifully in Start With Why. He says, people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. And I'd like to take that even a step further and say, you don't buy into what you do unless you're clear on why you do it. So when your actions match your values, your energy feels clean. You stop forcing momentum and start flowing with it. So if you're feeling unfulfilled lately, ask yourself, am I chasing success, or am I building something that actually feels aligned? We hear so much about work-life balance, but what I have found is that balance often creates guilt, because the myth of balance, fulfillment, right? The myth of that is that fulfillment is really about that harmony. Because let's be real, as business owners, leaders, parents, life isn't always balanced. Some seasons require us to hustle, others require more rest. And fulfillment doesn't come from trying to make it all even. It comes from creating this harmony. And harmony is when your life feels in rhythm, even if the tempo changes. I often like to reference this idea of work-life balance to balancing, right? This idea of harmony is that sometimes we're balancing more work focused, other times we're balancing more in our personal life. But at the end of the day, we're always balancing. And every time we get out of a little bit of that balance, that's where it forced us to grow in the other areas. And I love how Elizabeth Gilbert said it in Big Magic. You can measure your worth by your dedication to your path, not by your successes or failures. I love that, because when you allow yourself to move in rhythm with your priorities instead of fighting the season that you're in, life feels lighter. And fulfillment isn't about doing everything. It's about being fully present in what matters right now. And one of the hardest lessons I've learned personally is that speed is the enemy of fulfillment. Fulfillment really does require slowing down. So when you move too fast, you miss the magic. And fulfillment grows in the pause, in the quiet moments when you're actually able to appreciate what you've built. And there's a quote from Brendan Burchard that I love. And he says, "Don't let your ambition rob you of your appreciation." And I think that's the biggest danger for driven people. We get so good at achieving that we forget how to absorb our own life. So here's what I've learned is that slowing down isn't lazy, it's leadership. Because when you feel like you're leading from a place of being grounded and having that grounded energy, your team feels that. Your clients feel it, your family feels it. You create space for creativity, connection, and gratitude to return. And that's where true fulfillment lives. And if you've been in a season where success feels flat, it's often because contribution is missing. And Tony Robbins talks about this in his 6 Human Needs. And I did a podcast episode this a couple weeks ago. And it's one of the most profound frameworks I've ever seen, because we all crave significance, certainty, love, and growth. But fulfillment often comes from the last two, growth and contribution. So when you stop asking, what can I get, and start asking, how can I give, everything changes. And here's the wild part, is that contribution doesn't have to be huge. It's not always charity work or massive acts of generosity. It's how you show up in your team meetings. It's mentoring someone on your staff. It's being kind when you don't have to be. Fulfillment grows when you realize that your work matters beyond you. And this is one of my core beliefs. Growth equals fulfillment. When you stop growing, you stop feeling alive. And what I found is that so many leaders hit a wall, not because they've run out of potential, but because they've run out of stretch. You outgrow the version of yourself that built the last chapter, and that's okay. That's evolution. But fulfillment requires you to keep expanding, not just externally through business, but internally through mindset, habits, and self-awareness. And the leaders who stay fulfilled are the ones who keep asking, what's my next level of purpose, not just performance? That's the growth that sustains joy. And let's tie this back to leadership, because that is where it all connects. When you lead from fulfillment, your energy becomes contagious. Your team feels safe, inspired, and trusted, not pressured. You model what it looks like to enjoy the journey, not just survive it. And what I have found is that your people don't just follow what you say, they follow how you feel. So if you're constantly stressed, your team will mirror that. But if you're grounded and fulfilled, they'll lead with more purpose too. Fulfillment isn't just personal, it's cultural. It's how you create teams that grow with you, not away from you. So let's get practical. Here are a few things that I found that help build daily fulfillment in business and in life. Start your day with intention, not reaction. Don't start by checking emails. Start by checking in with yourself. Ask yourself what matters most today. This one shift helps you lead from clarity instead of chaos. Celebrate small wins. This comes from the Progress Principle by Teresa Amambly. And she found that people feel most fulfilled when they can see small daily wins, not just big achievements. And I just had this exercise that I did with a client where I had her actually message me every day, what's a win? Because she was having a hard time focusing on the progress and was worried more about the perfection of what she wasn't doing. And this shifted in just a few weeks, changed her entire outlook, created some amazing breakthroughs for her. We also want to make sure that we're connecting before you correct. Whether it's with your team, family, or clients, relationships grow through empathy, not efficiency. We want to protect your joy rituals. So fulfillment also lives in rituals. The morning coffee, the walk, the journaling, the gratitude moments, they seem small, but they're sacred. So detach from outcomes. As I've learned also and taught this in past episodes, you can be committed without being controlled by results. Fulfillment grows when your peace isn't tied to performance. So dreamers, here's what I found is fulfillment isn't a destination. It really is the way you travel. It's not about getting there. It's about being here in this moment, in this season, in this chapter of your growth. Because the truth is, if you don't find joy now, you won't find it then. And you deserve to love your life while you build your dreams, not just after. And that's what this work, leadership, fulfillment, growth, is really all about. So if this episode resonated with you, come join me in the LFG Business Academy on School. It's totally free, and it's where we dive deeper into what it means to grow as a leader, create fulfillment in your work, and design a business that actually feels good. You'll also get my mini leadership series, a free video training that helps you lead with more energy, clarity, and impact. And the link is in the show notes, and I'd love to see you inside. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of your Dream Coach podcast. If this message inspired you, share it with a friend who's chasing big dreams, but might need that reminder that the journey is in the joy. And remember, because your dream life starts with the way you lead, the way you live, and the way you grow. I will see you next time, dreamers, on the next episode of your Dream Coach podcast.